What if that old chair spindle, that cracked drawer, or that table collecting dust in your garage could become the most charming piece in your home? Welcome to Arkan Aesthetic Studio, where we don't just decorate, we transform. In this video, we're diving into the warm, imperfect beauty of upcycling old furniture into farmhouse-style decor, and you'll never look at junk the same way again. This video includes timestamps for your convenience. Skip ahead to what inspires you most. And if there's a project you'd love to see step by step, let me know in the comments. I'll share select DIY tutorials in our community tab, just for you. Maybe to some, I'm just another creator floating in the endless scroll. But if you're watching this, you're seeing more than a project. You're witnessing a purpose. This isn't just decor. It's how I bring warmth to my family's table. How I turn second chances into beauty, and how you can too. Every like, every comment, every single subscriber, it's not taken for granted. When you subscribe, you're not just growing a channel. You're nurturing a dream. You're helping a small, hopeful family keep building, one creation at a time. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for feeling something real. One farmhouse coffee bar from Upcycled dresser. There's a quiet kind of magic in taking what once was forgotten and breathing new life into it. In the soft morning light, a humble dresser becomes something more, a place where comfort and creativity meet. Here, in this rustic corner, the old would tell stories of yesteryears. Shelves once meant for clothes now cradle time-worn teacups, mason jars filled with morning essentials, and the simple promise of fresh brewed coffee. Each scuff, each faded patch of paint, is not a flaw but a memory preserved, a whisper of all the hands and hearts it has known before. Transforming a piece like this is not about chasing perfection. It's about welcoming imperfection and finding joy in the honest, weathered beauty of materials well-loved. A simple sanding to smooth the roughest edges, a brush of pastel cream to soften its stance, and a bit of thoughtful arrangement, and suddenly, a coffee bar is born, ready to host slow mornings and shared smiles. Please remember, the ideas shared here are simply meant to inspire, gentle suggestions meant to spark your own creativity. Whether you choose to follow these steps exactly or simply borrow a hint of the style, the heart of this transformation is entirely yours to create. Notice how light dances across the surface, how the open shelves invite easy mornings with their jars of coffee beans, little potted greens, and simple enamel kettles. The space feels alive, honest, almost like stepping into a memory you didn't realize you missed. No grand gestures, no cinematic gloss, just the pure, bright reality of home. And that's the beauty of it. With just your hands, a little time, and a vision, what once gathered dust can become a living, breathing part of your daily rhythm again. It's not about creating something perfect, it's about creating something perfectly yours. If this moment, captured so simply and warmly, encourages you to rescue a forgotten dresser and begin your own farmhouse story, then this little corner of inspiration has done its job well. Two rustic bench from reclaimed headboard. Not every story begins with something new. Some of the most beautiful ones begin with a second chance, like this one. This bench, soft with age and humble in its construction, once lived as the head of a bed. It stood guard while people dreamed. Now it waits quietly on a porch, offering a place to rest, to pause. Its creamy paint is gently worn by time and sunlight, and beneath it, a wooden crate once used for deliveries now cradles the items of a slower life. Garden tools, picnic blankets, or perhaps nothing at all. There's something about plaid cushions, sunlight on whitewashed wood, and a crisp breeze that makes everything feel like home. You don't need much. Just a headboard, a few sturdy boards for seating, and the patience to let something old become useful again. This isn't just decor, it's comfort made tangible. In case you're wondering, what I'm sharing here is meant to inspire. It's not a tutorial but a gentle invitation. You don't need to follow it perfectly. The charm lies in adapting it with your own hands, with what you already have. Elsewhere, the same idea takes shape in soft sage green, a peaceful color that catches the light like dew on spring leaves. This version welcomes you inside, paired with worn leather boots and a simple cushion. The lines are cleaner, but the soul remains. Recycled, remembered, reimagined. You might find the base of your bench in a thrift store or at the back of your own garage. Sand it down, coat it with chalky paint, let the brush marks show. It doesn't need to be flawless. Farmhouse beauty lives in imperfection, in stories told through scuffs and uneven strokes. And while I share these ideas with love, please know, I offer them not as rules, but as possibilities. What you see here is just one way to give life back to something forgotten. Whether placed outside with flowers blooming beside it or tucked into a hallway greeting the day's comings and goings, this bench is more than a seat. It's a reminder, home is what we make of what we already have. Three, vintage ladder farmhouse display rack. Sometimes, the simplest pieces carry the deepest warmth. A wooden ladder, worn and weathered by time, leans quietly in the corner of a room, not forgotten, but transformed. No longer a tool for reaching high places, now it reaches the heart instead, becoming part of the story a home gently tells. In a soft-lit bathroom, a faded ladder becomes a towel rack. The wood, untouched by polish or perfection, holds neatly folded fabrics in sage and cream. Sunlight filters through the window, casting long, familiar shadows that move slowly across the wall. It's peaceful here, practical, beautiful, and undeniably home. This isn't a complex project. In fact, it's something many could do with what's already nearby. A discarded ladder, a little time, and the willingness to see not what something is, but what it could be. I share these visuals as inspiration only, not to instruct, but to encourage your own version of something quietly useful and full of charm. Elsewhere, a taller ladder stands beside a cedar chest, draped with patchwork quilts that speak of seasons gone by. The colors are faded, the folds soft and familiar, and beside it sits a galvanized bucket of chamomile blooms, fresh, cheerful, and completely unfiltered. It's a moment frozen in light, an echo of simpler days. Not all design requires new purchases. Some of the most touching spaces are built from what we've kept, or what we've saved from being thrown away. This ladder, for example, might have once stood in a barn or leaned against the side of an old house. Now, it holds linens and stories with equal grace. And though I'm not teaching step by step here, I hope you see this for what it is, an invitation, a possibility, a quiet nod to the joy of turning something old into something that truly belongs, not just in your house, but in your daily life. Against a shiplap wall, a third ladder displays soft cottons and handmade quilts, flanked by simple clay pots of fresh herbs. The setting is bright, clear, and full of life, the kind of space where every item has meaning, where every texture matters, where nothing is too polished to feel real. This is farmhouse living at its gentlest. Honest, unfussy, and full of soul. Four, antique door turned rustic dining table. It begins not with a shopping trip, but with a quiet question. What if this old door could be more? In the soft hours of morning light, the table glows, not with polish or perfection, but with history. You can see the layers of time in every notch and weathered corner. What was once a threshold, a keeper of entrances and exits, is now a place for gathering. This transformation doesn't shout. It simply exists, gracefully, as if it had always been meant for this second life. An old door, salvaged with care, becomes the heart of a room. The worn wood, left mostly untouched, rests on thick farmhouse legs. The scars remain, and they should. They are not mistakes, but memory. A woven runner, a few candles, perhaps a jar of wildflowers picked from just beyond the fence. These simple touches are enough. It's worth saying, this is not a tutorial. I'm not offering a blueprint, only an idea. A whisper, really. A way of seeing what you already have with different eyes, should you ever wish to try something similar. The beauty of this lies in its believability. No heavy tools or rare skills required, only intention and a little patience. And then there are the small things. Mismatched chairs pulled together in unity, white ceramic dishes that don't match but still belong. There's a warmth in this setting that can't be bought. It comes from the effort, from the imperfections, from the knowing that this space is shaped with love. In another light-filled room, a similar table rests, this one brushed in soft whites, its edges lightly distressed. The feeling remains the same, inviting, timeless, grounded. These pieces ask nothing of you except to gather, to sit, to share something, a meal, a story, a moment of stillness. This is what makes farmhouse style so special. It's not a trend, it's a way of honoring the past while making space for the present. A salvaged door is no longer forgotten in a shed. It holds dinner plates now, and laughter, and maybe a few elbows during board games or bread making. Let it be known that everything you see here is shared only as gentle inspiration. Take from it what feels right, and leave the rest. After all, your table will tell its own story. Five, repurposed cabinet farmhouse pantry. There's a quiet satisfaction in giving old furniture a new reason to belong, a gentle kind of rebellion against the idea that beauty must be bought new. In the morning light, this cabinet tells a story not just of storage, but of intention. Once tucked away in a kitchen or hallway, forgotten under layers of dust or peeling paint, it now stands proudly, repurposed as a farmhouse pantry. The glass panels or chicken wire fronts frame a curated world of daily comforts. Mason jars labeled by hand, dry goods in warm earth tones, and the occasional sprig of lavender placed simply, without need for ceremony. You don't need to be an expert builder to create something like this. Often, it begins with a single idea: what if this could become useful again? Followed by a weekend afternoon, a paintbrush, and maybe a quiet playlist in the background. I share this not as instruction, but as possibility. A small window into a way of living that favors care over convenience. One of these cabinets wears a soft, aged green like a favorite sweater, chipped in just the right places, revealing the wood grain beneath. It holds not only ingredients, but rhythm. baskets where your hands will reach again and again, canisters for grains and sugars, jars for things you once kept in packaging. Everything is visible, intentional, calm. In another, creamy white panels open to shelves that feel like they've always been there. Canned goods, pastas, rice, and herbs, all arranged not for display, but for daily life. That's the essence of farmhouse charm. After all, practical, unfussy, and deeply personal. Whether you choose to replicate this exactly or simply let it influence your next DIY project, know that ideas like this are shared here to inspire, not instruct. They're meant to be adapted, reshaped, made yours. This isn't about designing a show home. It's about carving a little corner of peace in your own kitchen, a place where nourishment and nostalgia meet, where modern needs are met with old-world heart. So, if you ever find yourself with an unused cabinet and a bit of weekend time, consider the pantry it might become. You may just find that it holds more than food. It might hold a new way of seeing home. Six, Vintage Nightstand Pet Bed DIY. Sometimes, the things we love most don't start out looking perfect. They become perfect with purpose. What was once a nightstand, perhaps standing quietly for years beside a bed, holding books and glasses and the last thoughts of the day, has now found a new calling. Transformed with care and creativity, it becomes a tiny haven, a soft retreat, a bed for a four-legged friend who asks for little more than comfort and closeness. A drawer removed, a soft brush of chalky cream paint, a cushion tucked gently into the space where folded clothes or clutter once sat a day. And suddenly, it feels like it was always meant to be this way. You don't need a wood shop or fancy tools to create something like this. Just a bit of vision and a free afternoon. I'm not here to instruct you on every step, only to remind you what's possible. That your next piece of furniture might already be waiting in the corner, ready for a new story. In another room, the design changes slightly. A more ornate nightstand, painted in soft beige, now holds a sleepy dog nestled into a cozy nook, door open, cushion warm. There's something deeply peaceful in that image. The furniture is no longer serving just the room, it's serving love. Perhaps yours will be tucked beside your reading chair, or in a hallway where light pours in each morning. Whether you distress the paint or leave it smooth, whether you sew your own cushion or repurpose an old pillow, it's not about precision. It's about intention. I hope these ideas spark something for you. This isn't a professional blueprint, but a heart-led suggestion. A simple reminder that even small furniture can carry big meaning when reimagined with care. At the end of the day, these little pet beds aren't just places for dogs or cats to nap. They're a quiet gesture of kindness, a blend of nostalgia, utility, and softness. They make use of what you already have and give it back to those who give us so much without saying a word. Seven, Rustic Crate Wall Shelves Farmhouse Style. In a world that often moves too fast, there's something quietly grounding about wooden crates. They were once made to carry apples from orchards, bottles from barns, maybe tools from a family workshop. Now, softened by time and repurposed with care, they cradle something else entirely. Stories, memories, and the small joys of home. Mounted on a humble wall, these rustic crates become shelves, open, honest, and deeply beautiful in their imperfection. Inside them, a potted sprig of rosemary, a stack of linen napkins, an old ceramic pitcher, or a favorite worn book. None of it curated for the sake of show, but placed with the quiet knowledge of what feels right. It's a simple idea, an affordable one, and it works beautifully. This isn't meant to be a strict guide, just an invitation to look around your home differently. Maybe in your garage, in a thrift store, or tucked behind a shed, there are old crates waiting to become something new. In one corner, the shelves hold candles and clay vases, catching the golden wash of late afternoon sun. In another, they house glass jars and herbs, their muted greens and browns echoing the calmness of nature outside the window. A few even stretch across a laundry room wall, stacked with towels and greenery, offering both charm and purpose in equal measure. It's worth noting, I share these ideas not as instructions, but as inspirations, just glimpses of what can happen when you allow materials to tell their next story. The beauty of farmhouse decor lies in its soul, in its warmth, in its welcome. These crates, old and imperfect, do exactly that. They make space, not just for items, but for atmosphere. And perhaps that's the real lesson, that the most meaningful spaces aren't always built from the ground up, but from things once forgotten, now remembered with care. Eight, farmhouse coffee bar from Upcycled dresser. In a quiet corner where morning light drapes gently across wood and porcelain, an old dresser breathes again, its new life steeped in the comfort of coffee and calm. What once held sweaters or forgotten keepsakes now cradles vintage mugs, glass jars, and that familiar hum of a trusted espresso machine. The chippy white paint, worn through time, only adds to its charm, imperfect, yet deeply honest. There is something magical about converting the mundane into the meaningful. Removing the upper drawers creates open shelves, perfect for displaying everyday rituals. A soft linen drape, a worn woven basket, a tiny sprig of green. These details don't shout, they whisper. You don't need a workshop full of tools or a professional blueprint to create a nook like this. Just a willingness to see possibility where others see discard. This content is intended to spark ideas that feel real and doable. Something you can recreate on a quiet Saturday with just a little paint, patience, and vision. It's not about perfection, it's about presence. A dresser, a coffee pot, and a bit of heart can become a daily retreat. Nine, DIY rolling cart from old bookshelf. In the soft hush of a sunlit kitchen, a simple piece of forgotten furniture begins a new chapter. Once just a tired old bookshelf, tucked in the corner of a garage or hidden behind dusty boxes, it now rolls gracefully into purpose. Reborn with sage green tones or creamy distressed finishes, each shelf becomes a cradle for possibility. Perhaps it holds mason jars brimming with pantry goods, or maybe it's lined with vintage books, art supplies, or breakfast essentials waiting to be wheeled out on a slow Sunday morning. The secret here is not perfection, but potential. What you see is a rolling cart, crafted not in a factory but by hand, out of memory and imagination. Casters whisper across warm wooden floors, allowing the piece to move with life's rhythm, whether to a breakfast nook or beside a garden door. A reclaimed countertop anchors it with warmth, wood touched by time, still sturdy, still graceful. Of course, this isn't a strict tutorial. I'm simply offering inspiration, ideas that feel grounded, doable, and wonderfully personal. You don't need a workshop full of tools. You just need an old shelf, a vision, and the quiet confidence to give it another chance. The charm doesn't come from the cost or the paint color. It comes from the act itself. From slowing down long enough to see beauty where others see scrap. From making something that serves your daily life and reflects your care for home. Let it carry herbs, spices, or memories. Let it be what you need, when you need it. And above all, let it remind you that style doesn't come from newness. It blossoms from intention, from hands-on creation, and from the gentle art of giving old things a future. (10) Chic Farmhouse Hallway Table from Vanity. There's a gentle kind of grace in giving old things a second chance. In the quiet of a farmhouse hallway, light dances across the surface of what once was a forgotten vanity. Now, it's a charming console table, softened with age, celebrated for its imperfections. Its drawers, still sturdy, have been polished with care and now wear new handles like timeless jewelry. The mirror is gone, but in its place sits something even more reflective. Family portraits in mismatched wooden frames, stacked books with cracked spines, and a ceramic jug spilling with fresh-picked wildflowers. This isn't just a makeover, it's a revival of memory and meaning. A story rewritten in pastel tones and worn edges. Perhaps this very piece stood decades ago in a bedroom where someone once laced their shoes before church or brushed their hair in morning sunlight. Now, it greets you at the door with warmth and welcome, offering a little slice of peace after a long day. And the best part? You can create this too. If you happen to have an old vanity or dressing table collecting dust in the garage, don't rush to throw it out. With a bit of sanding, a coat of chalk paint, and a dash of patience, you can give it new life and make it sing a different song in a new space. Add brass pulls or even leave the wood bare. Every choice becomes a line in its new chapter. Of course, I'm simply sharing ideas that might inspire. What you choose to do with them is entirely up to you. But my hope is that you'll see these transformations not as mere DIY projects, but as quiet acts of creativity and care, proof that even the overlooked has beauty waiting to bloom. Let sunlight spill across your next creation. (11) Large DIY farmhouse wall clock from Tabletop. In a quiet corner where morning light softly spills across the grain of old wood, time begins to tell a new story. What once served as the worn surface of a family table, its edges softened by years of hands and gatherings, now hangs proudly as a statement farmhouse wall clock. The transformation is simple, but striking. Sanded to reveal its honest textures, the wood retains every knot and scar like a badge of its history. Over this grain, bold black numerals, some Roman, some traditional, are hand-painted with a steady touch, giving the piece both grandeur and grounding. This is the kind of project born not out of extravagance, but affection, for old things, for calm places, for the beauty of practicality. Turning a round tabletop into a giant wall clock isn't just clever, it's soulful. And with just a basic clock mechanism, some stenciled numbers, and a little sanding and staining, you too could create one. Though every project varies, the heart behind it remains the same, breathing life back into forgotten wood. Let it be said, I'm not here to instruct with blueprints, but rather to light a spark. These are merely ideas I find inspiring, and I believe they're entirely doable should your hands and heart feel drawn to try. In rooms dressed in linen, where stories are whispered through the grain of wood and time moves at its own gentle rhythm, such a clock feels right at home. It doesn't tick loudly. It doesn't demand attention. It reminds you, subtly, that the best things take time, and the best time is often now. "12. Rustic serving tray from old drawer front." In the quiet hum of a sunlit kitchen, where warm wood meets time-worn paint, the old cabinet whispers a new story. Once forgotten in a corner, its wood dulled by years of dust and use, this humble cupboard has been tenderly reborn into a farmhouse-style pantry, simple, graceful, and full of soul. The soft sage green paint hugs each edge with a chalky embrace, worn just enough to honor the life it lived before. Chicken wire replaces heavy panels, letting light dance freely over glass jars and woven baskets, now holding the essentials of a mindful home. Look closely and you'll see that every shelf is not just storage, it's poetry in organization. Lavender rests quietly in a jar, a sprig of peace among beans and grains. Here, beauty isn't staged, it's lived. And in that, it becomes timeless. You don't need to be a professional to recreate this charm. This is simply a gentle reminder that with a bit of paint, intention, and care, something old can find purpose again. This project, like all shared here, is simply an idea, an inspiration grounded in reality, offered in hopes it resonates and perhaps even invites your own hands to begin. After all, farmhouse style isn't about perfection, it's about soul. And sometimes, soul lives in chipped corners, mismatched jars, and sunbeams through glass. "13. Window frame photo gallery wall." There's something quietly poetic about giving old windows new purpose, especially when they no longer look out onto gardens or fields but into the heart of your memories. In the first glimpse, a weathered window frame, still adorned with remnants of its chipped paint, stands proudly on a neutral wall. Once part of a home's soul, now it frames black and white photographs, snapshots of laughter, of family, of timeless togetherness. Strung with simple twine and held by tiny clothespins, each pane becomes a chapter, each line a verse. The imperfections of the wood only deepen the charm, reminding us that beauty doesn't always need to be polished. Sometimes, it only needs to be remembered. The next frame captures the golden hour gently washing over a slightly distressed frame with soft beige tones. There's life clipped into every section. Smiling children, barefoot walks, love captured mid-glance. The frame rests above a console, flanked by antique glass jars and old books, anchoring the entire scene in a sense of place, a sense of belonging. It feels like a quiet Sunday morning in the countryside, where the light seeps in not to dazzle, but to comfort. And lastly, a smaller frame, more intimate, more personal, hung with rustic string, holding just a few precious photographs. There's elegance in the restraint. Here, the idea isn't to overwhelm the eye, but to let space breathe. This little window-turned gallery is a whisper of nostalgia, soft, meaningful, and wholly handmade. Now, if you're wondering whether you could create something like this yourself, let me assure you, this project is not only attainable, it's also deeply fulfilling. I'm sharing these visual stories to inspire, not to instruct with rigid steps. These are just gentle ideas, meant to spark your creativity and encourage a connection with materials that already carry a story. So if you have an old frame tucked in a shed or garage, maybe it's time to dust it off and let it become the storyteller of your home. Remember, it's not about perfection. It's about intention, about slowing down, about turning something forgotten into something unforgettable. (14) Rustic coat rack from table leg. There's a quiet poetry to giving old things a second life, especially when that second life stands tall by the door, greeting you with the memory of old dinners and new beginnings. The first image welcomes us with a stately coat rack, lovingly crafted from what was once a sturdy table leg. Painted in a creamy, time-worn white, it now stands proudly with graceful curves and metal hooks, like open hands ready to hold a scarf, a hat, or a memory from last fall. This piece, though simple, carries the soul of both form and function. A gentle reminder that beauty often grows from what we choose not to discard. In the second frame, the scene shifts to raw, rustic charm. Here, aged wood beams, weathered and honest, are reimagined as a horizontal coat rack, grounded and humble. No ornate details, just the straightforward texture of reclaimed timber and the warmth of cast iron hooks. It whispers farmhouse authenticity in the most comforting way, styled simply with a straw hat and a pair of well-loved boots. Please note, what you're seeing here is meant purely as creative inspiration. It's an approachable concept, and certainly something you could try crafting in your own way. And then comes the third, a farmhouse vignette where elegance meets practicality. An old leg, once part of a forgotten table, now finds a purpose on the wall. Distressed in faded gray with gentle brush marks and graceful turnings, it has become part of a mounted coat rack, paired with a weathered backboard and hooks that evoke vintage charm. Light pours through the window, soft and authentic, casting shadows that move with the hours. It doesn't demand attention, it just belongs. Each of these projects reminds us, the pieces we overlook often hold the most promise. Whether from a broken chair, a discarded table, or salvaged scraps, with a little effort and vision, they can become something meaningful again. This isn't a tutorial, and I'm not claiming to be a craftsman. I simply share ideas that make sense, that might spark something in your own creative rhythm. If you're drawn to this kind of calm and soulful transformation, perhaps your next project is already waiting in the corner of your garage. (15) Farmhouse plant stand from wooden stool. There's something beautifully grounding about giving forgotten furniture a new reason to be seen. In these quiet corners of the home, where sunlight filters through soft curtains and time seems to slow, a simple wooden stool rises to quiet purpose. Once overlooked, now transformed, a modest seat becomes a proud pedestal for thriving greens. Each brushstroke of soft sage or creamy white chalk paint whispers of hands that care, of a mind imagining softness, simplicity, and second chances. In the first image, a sage green stool rests humbly on a porch, its weathered edges speaking of seasons past. A ceramic pot filled with blooming florals graces its top, inviting life into a space once bare. There's a story here of morning coffee, birdsong, and slow awakenings. Inside, in the next frame, the stool, its paint naturally chipped and faded, cradles a terracotta pot. The afternoon light dances gently across the wood grain and terracotta surface, casting real shadows, not filtered fantasies. It's the kind of vignette that reminds us beauty doesn't beg for attention. It simply is. And lastly, a white stool, kissed by sunlight, now serves as a stand for a bold fern that breathes life into the room. It rests beside a window, where the day unfolds gradually. This kind of stillness, this kind of charm, it's not bought, it's built, slowly and sincerely. If this inspires you, know that these ideas are meant to feel accessible. I'm simply sharing concepts that you can absolutely try for yourself. These are not projects of perfection but moments of intention, the kind you can create with what you already have nearby. Take an old stool, let it tell a new story, add a plant, and suddenly, your space breathes again. (16) Wall-mounted shelves from repurposed drawers. There's a quiet magic in giving old things new purpose. Not everything has to be tossed away or replaced. Sometimes, a drawer that once held trinkets can rise again, not in its old role, but as something more poetic, a display of memory and charm. In the warm hush of afternoon light, these upcycled drawer shelves stretch across a pale wall, each one a wooden story waiting to be noticed. Some are painted in faded sage or worn ivory, their edges chipped like time-worn books. Others wear their original wood grain proudly, now lined with floral paper that whispers of past wallpapered kitchens or old sewing boxes. They cradle more than objects. Inside, we find snippets of lives, a framed photo of a laughing woman, a jar of preserved herbs, vintage mugs with dainty roses, a tiny houseplant casting long shadows against the shelf's back. Each cubby is a scene, a still life of love, crafted with intention, softened by time. Repurposing old drawers into wall-mounted shelves isn't just a DIY project. It's an invitation to see differently, to look at what we already have with a lens of possibility, to transform function into feeling. And no, this isn't a tutorial, but a whisper of an idea, a nudge. I share only ideas that are meant to be gently inspiring, ones that feel approachable and delightfully reasonable to try on your own. Let the imperfections stay. Let the screws show. Let each drawer find its new rhythm on your wall, not perfectly aligned but perfectly yours. In a world spinning ever faster, these small acts of creativity remind us to pause, to craft, to place a little more heart into the spaces we call home. (17) DIY tall candle holders from chair spindles. There's something deeply comforting about light, especially when it comes from a candle flickering atop a handmade piece that's lived another life. Once, these spindles held up chairs that gathered stories around kitchen tables and porches where days faded into dusk. Now, they rise again, repainted in soft whispers of farmhouse green, white chalk, and weathered wood, holding their glow not as furniture, but as gentle beacons of ambience. In this scene, we don't just see candle holders. We see patience, purpose, and the quiet joy of slowing down. Each spindle is unique. Some hold their original wood tones proudly. Others are brushed with paint that's been sanded back just enough to feel as though time kissed it. Whether gathered on a sunlit table surrounded by blooms or lined across a mantel catching the golden hour's hush, they speak of warmth, of craft, and of charm born from imperfection. This project is one that whispers, "You can do this too." All I'm offering here is an idea, a humble spark. Something you could recreate with your own twist, using salvaged pieces from forgotten corners of your home or a thrift shop's dusty shelf. No grand tools or mastery required, just the willingness to give something old a new story. In a world moving quickly, there's magic in creating slowly. And perhaps, as you sip your tea in soft light, watching the candle dance on a spindle you once sanded and painted by hand, you'll feel not only the glow of the flame, but the quiet satisfaction of making something meaningful with your own hands. '18. Slim farmhouse bookshelf from bed slats. In the hush of a sunlit corner, where warmth lingers on wooden grains and silence hums like a soft song, stands a piece of old soul reborn. What was once a forgotten bed frame, tucked away and gathering dust, now rises proudly as a slim farmhouse bookshelf, an ode to time, to memory, to creative reinvention. Look closely. The vertical slats, weathered and aged, carry stories in every scratch and knot. They've been gently sanded and stained just enough to honor the wood's natural whispers, then framed into structure, simple, honest, and endlessly charming. No frills, no fuss, just the kind of beauty that speaks quietly but stays long. Each shelf offers a home to things that matter: heirloom books stacked with care, tiny baskets woven by hand, and potted greenery that breathes life into the edges. One nook holds a ceramic jug, its surface imperfect and lovely, while another boasts a cluster of wildflowers, catching the morning light like a painting in motion. This isn't just about storage, it's about soul. A slim silhouette, perfect for narrow walls or a tucked-away reading spot. It proves that elegance doesn't need extravagance. It simply needs intent. And for those wondering, yes, this is a project you can try at home. I'm not a professional craftsman, just someone sharing ideas that are lovingly doable. This isn't a masterclass, it's a whisper of possibility. A suggestion, not a standard. Something for your hands to try and your heart to guide. So the next time you pass by a worn bed frame on its way out, pause, tilt your head, picture it standing tall again, holding not weight, but wonder. '19. Vintage window frame farmhouse mirror. Sometimes, the soul of a home can be found not in the new, but in the reflections of the old, gently reimagined with care. In this story, we begin with a vintage window frame, its paint cracked by time and softened by countless sunsets. Once looking outward, now it looks within, reborn as a farmhouse-style mirror. The glass panes now reflect not the world beyond, but the quiet charm of your own living space. A soft morning light slips across the room, touching the mirror with gold. It captures a sense of calm, as if whispering, "You're home." One might think such elegance needs precision craftsmanship, but the truth is far more inviting. A salvaged frame, a few mirror cuts, and a vision rooted in simplicity are often all it takes. This idea isn't a rigid guide or expert blueprint. Rather, it's an open window into inspiration, one that feels both grounded and possible to bring to life in your own time, your own way. In another room, a distressed frame leans confidently above a console table, paired only with a candle and a potted green companion. No perfection, no polish, just warmth and realism. The dappled afternoon light, unedited and gentle, plays on the walls like a quiet breeze. These aren't just mirrors. They are storytellers, offering glimpses of life, light, and the beauty of well-worn edges. And in the final moment, a glimpse of soft reflection. A mirror hung in a hallway corner where the day arrives and leaves. The window's original flaws remain. The scratch of history, the uneven paint, the imperfect panes. But here, they are not faults. They are features. They are the memory of something old being trusted with something new. Please remember, I'm only sharing these ideas as thoughtful suggestions. Pieces of inspiration that I believe are beautiful, simple enough to try, and wholly rewarding when personalized by your own hands. You don't need a workshop to start, only a little curiosity, a touch of intention, and something old you're willing to see in a new light. (20) Layered plant stand from old side table. In the quiet glow of a sunlit corner, where warmth touches gently across aged wood and greenery hums softly with life, a humble side table finds new purpose. Once a forgotten piece, its surface now hosts a lush parade of potted leaves, each tier cradling ceramic pots, terracotta cups, and winding vines like a story unfolding in chapters. The chipped paint and weathered finish do not hide its age, they celebrate it. This upcycled plant stand, fashioned from an old wooden table, brings rustic farmhouse charm into any space without demanding attention. It whispers comfort. It's proof that beauty often lives in the layered, the lived in, the lovingly repurposed. For those wondering, this isn't a tutorial, but a gentle offering of inspiration. What you see here is simply an idea, doable, practical, and perhaps just enough to nudge your creativity. You may have a piece just like this one sitting in a corner or a garage, waiting for a second chance under the sun. Let your hands do the work slowly. Sand the top if needed, brush on a soft coat of chalky paint. Let some wood peek through as a memory of what it once was. Then, place your green companions, the trailing ivy, the perky fern, the steadfast pothose, and watch how life begins again, both in the furniture and the space around it. Because sometimes, giving something old a new story isn't just about the furniture. It's about the feeling it brings to the room, the stillness it carries, and the quiet satisfaction of having created something entirely your own. (21) Stacked lamp base tiered farmhouse tray. In a sunlit kitchen filled with quiet morning stillness, two tiered trays sit gracefully on a wooden counter, whispering stories of their past lives. They weren't always this way. Once, they were forgotten lamp bases and mismatched wooden plates, gathering dust in the corners of someone's attic or resting idly on a thrift store shelf. But here they are now, upcycled into charming farmhouse-style trays, radiating purpose and rustic elegance. One tray stands proud with soft creamy paint, chipped just enough to reveal its honest age. It cradles a few humble mugs, some folded napkins, and a sprig of greenery in a clay pot. Small touches, but together they create a sense of calm and invitation. The other, slightly darker in tone, holds enamel cups and tiny succulents, their glossy leaves catching the daylight that streams through the window like honey. These trays, once considered useless, now serve warmth with every cup and comfort with every candle set upon them. What I'm sharing here is simply a vision, a humble idea that you might find worth recreating. With just a few simple tools and an open heart, you too can give life to forgotten pieces, crafting something both functional and soulful for your home. This isn't a precise blueprint, but rather an open invitation to imagine what could be. In another kitchen, perhaps yours, this idea might bloom into a tray styled with seasonal florals, miniature pumpkins, or pine cones kissed by winter. The beauty of it all lies not just in the making, but in the repurposing, in seeing what once was and imagining what still could be. Let these trays remind you, a little wear can be beautiful, a little imperfection, perfect, and a touch of creativity can breathe life into the ordinary. If this video meant something to you, please know that subscribing means the world to me. You're not just supporting content, you're supporting a dream that keeps my family going. Thank you, truly. I'd also love to hear from you. What did you enjoy the most? Is there anything I could do better to keep inspiring or simply entertaining you? Your feedback helps this channel grow with heart and purpose. Let me know in the comments. I read every one.